Hello and happy Friday. This is the first of a series of coffee chats that I'm going to be having on Fridays. The purpose of it is to give you a little tip or trick or activity that you can do with your kids over the weekend that will help with all parts of their development, or maybe focused on one part, but just so that you can always have new ideas to do that. And I want to try to keep it 5 to 10 minutes so that it doesn't take much of your time. And it's hopefully something that's easy to implement into your weekend that can be fun. So to start off with, and again, I'm going to call these little coffee chats so you can have your coffee too while we do this and get your ideas. So the first thing that we're going to talk about for this weekend is a little scavenger hunt outside. And I'll kind of explain why doing it outside is good for incorporating a lot of the sensory system, but it can be done inside too. But we'll just kind of go over the example for outside. So first, what you'll do with them is you'll make a list of the things that you want to find outside. And so this can be graded based on their ages or skill levels, right? So if you want to come up with the list together and you write it, you can have them trace the list, you can have them copy the list, or you can have them come up with it themselves, just depending on where they're at. Or they can be responsible for crossing things off or using a check mark once you find them. You can also do it with pictures. So together you guys can come up with either pictures from online or a magazine, and pictures, or draw pictures of the things that you want to find. Okay. And then another way to grade that is that you can look for a certain amount of each item. That would make it harder, or you can just try to find each item. So there's not like a certain amount that you need to find. So that's just a few quick tricks as to how to grade that, again, based on your child's age, abilities, what they're working on. So that's a good way to do that. And of course, if they or are writing, tracing, copying, any of that, working on the check marks, anything like that, they are working on those visual motor skills and visual perceptual skills. And then, of course, helping you plan the activity and plan what they're going to find not only makes it more fun and interesting and engaging for them, but it also helps work on that executive functioning and that planning piece of things they need for so many skills in life. So that's kind of the prep work. So depending on what season it is, it's going to change what you're looking for. But just examples would be sticks, pine cones, maybe grass, a flower, birds, anything like that, right? Whatever they're most interested in outside is something that you guys can add to the list. The next part is going to be going outside and looking for these things. So I want to talk about what sensory components are involved in that. So first of all, the obvious one is gross motor. They're moving around, they're reaching with their whole arm to find things, maybe reaching up high, down low, squatting. So that gross motor component is part of it. And then the proprioception. So what that means is their bodies, their joints, awareness of where their joints are in space. So if their arms out here, they know that their arms out here. So that plays into balance and those sorts of things. So just by nature of being outside and ducking under things and maybe walking on a log or things like that, they're challenging that sensory system and working on those things. Need a sip of coffee. So that would be one. So that just awareness of where their body is in space and that balance factor. Another thing that they'll be working on is that tactile sense. So if you're outside, you're touching all different textures, whether that's the bark on a tree or dirt or mud, or maybe snow, water, grass. So there's all different types of touch sensations that you're going to bump up against outside. And so a good way to start that conversation is how did that make you feel when you touched that? Was that okay? Did it bother you? Did you like that touch sensation? So just kind of having them clue into that and then being exposed to, again, different touch, tactile senses is a good thing. And then another thing outside is that they're going to, again, be exposed to different smells. And so talking again about how that sensation makes them feel, and if it's something that bothers them, what they can do about that to feel okay. So bringing in not only the sensory piece, but a little bit of language to social emotional regulation, and how different senses can make them feel. And then another quick note is the visual sense that's involved in being outside. So we kind of talked about making the list and how that involves visual motor, just by copying or tracing, or imitating or crossing things out. That's using that visual motor sense. So your brain takes in that visual input, and then you have a motor output, which would be the handwriting. But also, when you're on the scavenger hunt and searching around, it uses a lot of those visual perceptual skills in a very functional way, which is good. So one of those things being figure ground skills. So that's part of that umbrella of visual perceptual skills. So figure ground is when they're looking for, say, a leaf, and it's in a pile of dirt and it's hard to see, and they have to pick it out of that busy background. That skill is called your figure ground skill. And it's, again, part of that visual perceptual umbrella. And that's used all the time in daily life, whether that is trying to find a sock out of a pile of dirty laundry, anything like that. Right. So that skill is super useful and important. And they'll be working on that all throughout the scavenger hunt. Another one is form constancy. So they have this image, and maybe you did do it with pictures of what they're looking for, but they have this image in their mind or what they've seen of each thing on the list. So say a pine cone, they have a picture of a pine cone or know what it looks like in their head. They have to also be able to find that in their environment. And it's probably going to be in a different position in the environment. Maybe it's up on a tree, maybe it's on the ground, maybe it's bigger than they imagine, maybe it's smaller than the picture that they have. So they have to translate visually that information, and their brain has to register, okay, that's the same object that is on my picture, but maybe it's just a little bit bigger, it's turned to the side. So it works on that skill when they're having to find things just out in the wild. So one of the other skills is visual discrimination. So it kind of plays into that, right? So things are going to be different sizes. There might be a small flower and there might be a big flower, but they both fall under that flower category, right? So they're having to discriminate between sizes and shapes that way. And then you can kind of bring that further, and maybe when they get back, they have to sort everything out into a pile. So these are the branches, these are the tall branches, these are the small ones, that sort of thing. So you can bring in a lot of different visual skills into this activity, which is great because, again, those things translate across life, and then especially for academic skills in school. So it's a good way to work on that in a fun, play-based way, which is how kids learn best. And then, of course, I want to finish off with that it uses fine motor skills. So when they're, especially if it's a small object, when they're using their pincer grasp to grab something, or they have to use their whole hand and use more of a power grasp to get something, they're really working on those fine motor skills, especially if they might have to pull. And so that's, again, using those fingers and the muscles in the hands to work on grasping different sized objects, which, again, is a super functional skill that helps them develop. So I ran through that pretty quickly, but I want to try to keep these on the shorter side. Again, I didn't drink as much coffee during our coffee chat as I would like. But again, I want to keep them short because I know that your time is valuable, and I want to make sure I'm just giving you some quick tips, tricks, activities that you can use for the weekend ahead, for you and your little one, to help not only building memories, but also to build those developmental skills, um, and help them in all ways. So until next time, I'll see you guys next week at our OT coffee chat. Thank you.